What's up, everybody? Welcome to NFL Week 8, 2024 episode of Cherry Pickers. I'm your host, Gary Altizer. I'm here flying solo today. Ryan is out of town this week, so I will just be bringing you my system picks, some talk about last week and how the picks did last week, and some player news this week as we head into Week 8. We're almost halfway through the NFL season 2024, which seems kind of crazy to me. It goes by so fast. We're in the thick of things, and these teams are basically becoming who they're going to be for the rest of the year. This is kind of when you see who is for real and who isn't, as these records start to get to where I can kind of forecast where they're going to go from here on out, and we'll see who the real contenders will be here in the next couple weeks. But why don't we get started with a recap on last week? We had 8 picks for you guys last week from the system. We went 4-4 against the spread. That's another 500 week. I guess if that's the worst that it's going to get, that's great. If that's the best it's going to get, that's not very good. But it just seems like the NFL lines right now are very sharp. And with the sharp lines come some wins and some losses. So the first pick we had last week was Philadelphia, 3-point favorites at the Giants. Just demolished the Giants. It wasn't even close. That Philly front seven got healthy, and they were able to take advantage of that. Saquon went off. Easy cash right there. Second game was Seattle getting 3 at Atlanta. Another easy cash. No problem there. Seattle coming off that loss to San Francisco. They went down to Atlanta and took care of business. DK Metcalf had a great game. Geno had a great game. Kenneth Walker had a great game. Atlanta, in my opinion, are pretenders. They're not for real. They won a couple games this year that they shouldn't have. They're lucky if they finish 9-8 this year, in my opinion. The third game, we won the first 3 in a row. First 3 picks in a row were cashes. It was Houston getting 3 at Green Bay. They lost by 2, could have won the game, but they weren't able to cash in on a couple of those drives that they got deep, and Green Bay was able to kick a field goal at the end of the game to win it, but they only won by 1, and that was all we needed for us to get the win. So Houston was able to cash for us. The next one was Cleveland getting 5.5 points, playing Cincinnati at home. The Browns missed a field goal. The Browns missed an extra point, and they ended up losing by 7. Had they made that field goal, we cash. From a guy that's been kicking great the last couple years. He's not having a good season this year, and that one that stunk because that really should have been a win. Getting that many points in a division game. But again, Watson, we all know he got hurt. I'm sure everybody knows he tore his Achilles and he's done for the season. And that did kind of throw a wrench in things in the game. But Winston ended up coming in and finishing after DTR came in and he looked bad. I don't know how else to put it. He just looked bad last week. And Winston was able to get a touchdown at the end of the game. But, man, I really wish that field goal would have went. We'd have won the game by 1.5. But it's the Browns. And when you bet on the Browns, just like any other volatile team, you take a chance of those kind of things to happen. So we did not win that one. The next one was the Vikings -1 at home against Detroit. In my opinion, that was just 2 even teams playing. And Detroit just happened to play a little bit better. I don't know that Minnesota was as good as their numbers were showing at the beginning of the year because Sam Darnold has been playing out of his mind. Sam Darnold, if you watch a Vikings game, watch the first 10 to 15 plays. He plays crazy good. He plays amazing football the first 10 or 15 plays. And why is that? Well, in my opinion, the first 10 to 15 plays are scripted plays. That means that in practice all week, they go through and practice the plays that they're going to run in the order that they're going to run them. And he is completely and totally calm, knows where he's going with the football, knows what to do on every play. It's outside of that structure where the calls come in, the plays come in at random whenever the offensive coordinator or the head coach wants called. And he's not as comfortable then. And then if he gets pressure coming to him, he can put the ball in harm's way. Now, he didn't play a bad game that game, but if you watch that game, that first quarter, he played flawless. If you can find a first quarter line, and it's a reasonable line to bet the Vikings because Darnold playing in that first quarter. I would love to go see the stats this season and how they've done this year when it comes to the first quarter and if they've covered or not, because I can't imagine them. They're probably undefeated this season in first quarter covers. I don't know. That's something I'll probably look that up for next week and see how that is, and maybe we'll make that a play, see what the trends are, and see what the line is for next week on the first quarter of the Vikings game. But Detroit ended up winning. It was only a 1-point line, so really Vegas thought these teams were kind of even, and that's what we saw. And Detroit just was able to come through. They're hungry. They want this. They're confident. They're playing great. I mean, Aiden Hutchinson going out, I thought for sure that was going to have an impact, but it didn't seem to. I mean, the defense, that Detroit defense wasn't that great anyway. And Hutchinson being out, of course, he's a huge loss, but it's not like the defense was hanging by a thread with him. So it didn't seem to matter. Detroit is a major player in the NFL. They're a major player in the NFC and for a Super Bowl. So no surprise there. The next game, Kansas City was getting to at San Francisco. That cashed. Kansas City ended up winning outright. San Francisco having some horrible injury luck. All three of their starting receivers were out in that game by the second half. Deebo Samuel played 3 plays and came out because he had a respiratory problem, ended up being pneumonia, and he went into the hospital. Brandon Ayuk tore his ACL and MCL during the game. He was gone. Juwan Jennings was already out that game. And in that Kyle Shanahan offense, you've got to have a ton of reps in that offense to get the timing down, to get the chemistry down with the quarterback. And you could just tell Ronnie Bell, Ricky Pearsall, Chris Conley, these guys that are the 5th, 6th, 7th receivers on this team, that 49ers team, were not there. Brock Purdy threw a couple of passes that he probably shouldn't have, but who knows if that was because he just made a mistake, or maybe the receiver wasn't in the right place, or they just don't have the chemistry that they needed. They were on their 3rd kicker of the season. The 49ers were that game. They ended up losing by 10 points, and that game really could have been a lot closer because the 49ers were in Kansas City territory on several occasions for a couple of those turnovers. But the system liked Kansas City getting points, and that cash for us, that was an easy cash. And then what came to the Monday night game. So we were 4-2 going into Monday night, and the system liked Tampa getting 3.5. That didn't work out. And again, some more injuries. Tampa lost their top 2 receivers. Mike Evans, he went out with a hamstring injury. I guess he went in with a hamstring being sore and kind of being iffy. And then he gets in there. He's in the end zone, has a touchdown in his hands, and drops it because he lets go of the ball and grabs his hamstring. Whatever happened, it looked like it was really painful, and he was done for the game. They ended up losing by 10 points. Later on in the game, their other receiver ended up getting a nasty injury. He's out for the season. That's just the way it goes. That's a bad variance. They lost by 10. And on one of those drives, there was an interception thrown in the end zone. Had they scored there, we cover by 0.5 point, but that's variance in the NFL, especially when your best 2 receivers are out, and especially when they're 2 of the best receivers in the NFL. Baker Mayfield is going to have to build some rapport with these other guys and see what happens. And the last one, we did not cash, taking the Chargers -2 at Arizona. The Chargers were up by 1 at the end of the game. Arizona kicked a field goal as time expired, I believe, or really close to it, and won. That's just kind of the way the ball bounced. This Chargers team is not explosive at all. They don't have anything explosive on offense. J.K. Dobbins is their best offensive player outside of Herbert. Other than that, the receivers aren't any good. So you're taking a chance anytime you bet on them because they can stall out. They're going to play fundamentally sound football, but they're not going to score a lot of points. In Arizona, they have Kyler. They've got Harrison. They've got some weapons on offense. They've got James Conner. They're not a great team either, but they were able to win a close one at home. So that's 4-4 on the week. Hoping to have a better week this week. Before we get to this week's games, just remember 1-800-GAMBLER. If you feel like you have a gambling problem and need help, need resources, 1-800-GAMBLER is there to give you all the information you need. So let's head to week 8 right now. We can start with the Cleveland and Pittsburgh picks. Neither one of these will be official picks because both have new quarterbacks starting today. New as in less than 4 starts and finishes to a game. We have to have 4 full games of information to officially have them in for a pick. So if there is a game where either team is starting a quarterback with less than 4 starts and finishes, we can't use them because we don't have enough information from this season. And I don't go by past seasons when I'm making these system picks, because what happened last year has no bearing on this year, in my opinion. And I'm not sure why anybody uses that, especially if there are new coaches or new quarterbacks. So Cleveland is getting 8 at home versus Baltimore. It's the Jameis Winston show now. We saw what happened with Watson. It was a non-contact injury. Those are always the worst, because if somebody goes down like that in a non-contact play, you know it's bad. That happened in the Super Bowl with Dre Greenlaw for the 49ers. It's happened a bunch of times in the NFL. I don't know if it's these turf fields. I don't know if it's the shoes. I don't know if it's bad luck, but man, so many Achilles injuries happening lately. Aaron Rodgers last year had an Achilles injury, but he had somebody fall on top of him while his foot was caught underneath of him. But with Watson, there was nobody touched him. Did his cleat get caught? I don't know. I mean, whether it's grass, whether it's turf, I don't know what it is, but there are a lot of Achilles injuries now. I don't remember them being this bad in the past, but maybe it's just more pronounced when it happens to the quarterbacks. But Baltimore is giving Cleveland 8 points. Cleveland played Baltimore really tough last year, but that was last year. This isn't the same Cleveland team. This Baltimore team, according to Pro Football Focus, has the number 1 passing offense and the number 1 rushing offense and the number 1 graded quarterback in the NFL. I would not touch that game with a 10-foot pole unless I was taking Baltimore. If you wanted to tease Baltimore down to -2 and grab another game with that, that wouldn't be a bad idea. But it is a division game. And when you have a new quarterback starting like Winston, sometimes they can come in and play hot because there's no film on them this season. There's definitely no film on him with Cleveland. So when that happens, you can catch the defense by surprise, catch the defensive coordinators by surprise. You can move the ball. They're going to have to be able to block up front, though. I heard Wyatt Teller is healthy. So I don't know what to expect from this Cleveland offense with Winston. I can't imagine it being much worse. Maybe he'll provide a spark, and maybe Nick Chubb will be better. Maybe the offensive line will be better. Maybe they'll keep it close and win. Who knows? I'm not taking this game. But if I was, I probably would tease it, and I'd get Baltimore down to -2 and pair them with another game that I liked. The next game here is the Steelers are at home as of a 6-point favorite against the New York Giants. The Giants just look awful anymore. They just look bad. They look like they just are a team that's, I don't know, in this current situation, in this current environment, if it's going to last much longer. Brian Daboll was a coach of the year a couple years ago. At the beginning of the season, the first game or two, I thought, man, he's just don't got it right now. His team doesn't have it. And then he came back, played a couple really good games. I thought, okay, he's figuring it out. And then they were right back down in the toilet after that. And now they're benching Danny Dimes. Jones is down. They're benching him for Drew Lock. As far as I know, Drew Lock is starting, and I think they're kind of at a crossroads, and I think Jones is gone after this year. He's probably going to end up either a low-level starter for a team that's desperate, or is just going to throw the towel in for a year, or he's going to be a backup somewhere else. He's going to be like an Andy Dalton maybe. That might be his future, and that's not a bad gig to have in the NFL. He's made a lot of money, and he'll continue making money because he's good enough to definitely be on a roster. He's just not good enough to lead a team to any kind of serious Super Bowl threat. And Drew Lock, if anybody watched Drew Lock play in the past when he was in Denver or in Seattle, I watched him some when he was in Seattle. He came in last year and won a game for the Seahawks when Smith was hurt. He throws a really nice ball. He doesn't have a Jay Cutler-like arm. That's one of the most special arms you'll see in the NFL as far as just arm talent goes. But his arm talent is really good. He can sling a ball, but he can turn it over too. And Pittsburgh, I still think that the Pittsburgh front is probably going to eat up this Giants offensive line. They have one really, really good offensive lineman, and outside of that, it's not that great. They've got Malik Neighbors. He's a great, great, great talent. They got Dexter Lawrence, another amazing talent. I mean, the Giants have got 3 or 4 top 5 guys at their position, or top level guys at their position. I mean, Lawrence might be the best or second best guy at his position. Neighbors is one of the best young receivers in the NFL. So, I mean, they've got some guys on there. Drew Lock can come in and play well at times, and he can get the job done sometimes, but I just still think Pittsburgh at -6 points here, I just like them better. I just think that at this point, it'd be tough to take the Giants in any game against a team like Pittsburgh, who's above average team and who has a great defense. We saw Russell Wilson come in last week, and a lot of people were questioning that. They said Fields didn't do anything to lose that job. I agree there. He didn't do anything to lose it. But in my opinion, he didn't do anything to hands down keep it either. He ran the ball well, and he didn't turn the ball over a lot, but he also didn't make a lot of special plays, and they were 4-2. And I think Tomlin just looked at it like, look, we can continue to hover around this point where we'll be a game or two above 500, maybe. But teams are going to figure out how to stop the offense altogether. We're not going to be scoring as many points as we are now, which isn't very much. We got to take some kind of chance to see if Wilson can get in there and move the ball. And I think he also promised Wilson that he's going to be the starter. And I think that when Mike Tomlin and the Steelers say they're going to do something, they do it. They're just a loyal team. They don't make a lot of big splashes. The fact that they signed 2 quarterbacks in the offseason this year blew my mind, because that is not the Pittsburgh way at all. But Fields come in and did his job. I just don't see that he don't have a high ceiling when he throws the ball. He just doesn't. And that's the truth. Wilson played good. He's got a good receiver that plays well with contested balls. That was obvious. He did get some help there. But you know what? He also made the plays that he needed to play. They scored a lot of points in that game, and they won convincingly over a team that has a good defense. That Jets defense is pretty good. That Jets secondary is pretty good. I think they did well. I think that there's just some opportunity here for them to really be able to put points on the board. And if they can keep Lawrence out of the backfield today, that's another thing. You'll probably see some more success by this offense. Now, if they don't keep him out of the backfield, if Wilson is rushed all over the place, or if he's pulling his regular Russell Wilson where he's running around in the backfield for 4, 5, 6 seconds trying to find something, that can either lead to a really big play or a really bad play. In Pittsburgh, you're going to have to get used to seeing that. That's the way Russell Wilson plays. He runs around. He'll take a big sack, but then he'll also make a big play. So you have to get used to that. He just got to build rapport with his receivers, which he's obviously already done with some of these guys. I think that he's probably going to get these tight ends involved more. And I don't know if this will be the game that Pittsburgh can get their running game, really, really going, because of the disruption that they'll have up front from a guy like Lawrence. But we'll see. Of course, I can't bet on this game. We don't have any information on this game as far as the system picks go, because it's a new quarterback getting in there with Drew Lock. But I guess I would take Pittsburgh if I had to take one of the two. Okay, let's get to the official picks that we have here. We have 4 or 5, depending on how you want to take this. One of these games, the line moved because there was a change in an injury report we'll get to. But the first game is Buffalo -3 at Seattle. The Bills head to the Seahawks. They're coming in with, of course, they've got Josh Allen. And the one thing they were missing this season was, I saw somebody online say that the Bills were trying to do what the Chiefs did: play good defense, have a big-time quarterback with a bunch of no-name receivers where you spend your money on other things. And they tried that, man. It didn't really work. They needed to get a good receiver in there. So they made a really fantastic trade to get Amari Cooper in, and he immediately makes a difference with Buffalo. Seattle, they're really not much of a different team here, if you ask me. that they were last year or the years past with Pete Carroll. They're kind of hovering around 500 or maybe a little bit better. They've got some playmakers on offense, and they'll win some games. But I just think they're going to be outmatched today. Now, Seattle's not an easy place to play. It's outside. It's the loudest stadium in the NFL. And it is a place where if you get caught off guard, you're going to lose. So I like this pick. Buffalo -3 is a good pick to me. I would take that pick. I'm going to agree with the system here. The system likes that. I just think Buffalo is going to be too much. And I think DK Metcalf may be hurt today. I don't know if he's playing or not. They might not have even announced yet. But he took a nasty hit. He fell down on his shoulder, I think, in that game against Atlanta. And I think he finished the game, but he wasn't right the whole time. But that's pick one, Buffalo -3 at the Seattle Seahawks. The second pick, the Indianapolis Colts getting 5 points at the Houston Texans. Indy has Richardson back. This is a division game. This was a week 1 game that came down to the wire that Houston won in a close one. Nico Collins is still out for the Texans. And that is the big play guy for the Texans. He's such a difference maker that when he's not in, that team's not the same. Indy with Richardson, I mean, I don't know what you say about Anthony Richardson. He's a big kid with an enormous arm who can run the ball well, but he also does not complete a lot of passes. He throws a lot of incompletes, and he doesn't always get the job done. He's not somebody that I would rely on. But according to the numbers, we have 4 games with him, 4 starts, 4 finishes, just enough. And it thinks that these teams are pretty close, and that's exactly what happened in the first game. So getting 5 points in a division game, if the system thinks they're close, I'm going to take it. Now, Richardson could throw picks, and they could lose. Or if he plays a clean game and gets a couple of those bombs going where he can just he could throw that ball. So, I mean, he could throw 65 yards with his eyes closed. They could come out and win. But 5 points is a lot in the NFL, especially in a division game, especially against with 2 teams who play each other tough every time they play. Last year was the same way. I think it was week 18 last year where Indy had the game won and ended up losing right at the end. They would have been in the playoffs if they won. Flacco's come in and played good for them in a couple of games, but they're going with Richardson until that ship sails. They spend a high pick on him. That's just the way it's going to go. So that's the second pick is Indy +2. Third pick here is the Philadelphia Eagles headed to Cincinnati, getting 2.5 points against the Bengals. The odds makers think Cincinnati is the team to beat here. They think that they are the better team by almost a field goal. I personally, I don't know. This Bengals team's hard to figure out. They are a really nice offense. Their defense isn't that great. They've won, I think they're 3-4 now. Now they could very easily be 5-2. They've lost a couple close games. This Philly team is healthy now. They've got their wide receivers back. Saquon is playing great. I think they got healthy along the defensive line. This is still a really, really talented Philly team. And I think that they're starting to figure it out. This is probably going to be a great game. This is probably going to come down to the end. And this will stink. If Philly loses by 3, this will stink. If you want to feel better about this game, buy a half a point and get up to 3. I wouldn't hold it against you if you did that. But we're going to take it at what the odds makers have made it at +2.5 for Philly. And also, T. Higgins is out today. T. Higgins is not there. That's a big loss for Cincinnati. That's a big loss for them. Them not having T. Higgins as that second option for Burrow will make a difference. So who knows? Maybe that will be the difference, and maybe Philly comes out on top or they win a game close. But we're getting 2.5 points, and that is the third game we will take. The fourth game here was the Green Bay Packers -3.5 at the Jacksonville Jaguars. I personally don't feel great about this game. The Jaguars are in desperation mode. Their coach knows that he is out. Unless they make a huge turnaround, he's done. He's gone. They've got talent on that team. They should not be as bad as they are. They looked good last week against the Patriots, but everybody's looked good against the Patriots this year except for the Bengals. So I don't know how much I would take stock in that. Every game they're in, every single game that they've lost this year except for Buffalo, they've been in. In fact, they probably could have won every single game but that Buffalo game. Things just happened at the end of these games that have make them lose these games, or it's been one mistake that has built on another mistake on another, and then when they get to the end of the game, they just can't pull it out because of all these earlier mistakes. Green Bay plays good football. They have a great coach. They've got a good quarterback. He's playing great. Jordan Love's playing great right now. I believe he leads the NFL in touchdowns, or he's in second, and he missed 2 games this year. So he's got some good rapport with his receivers. They've got a pretty complete team there. They're -3.5. That moved down. It was -4. Now it's -3.5. So some money came in on the Jags at -4. So we're hoping for a 4-point or better win here for the Packers. I do think that this game will be closer than people think. I think a lot of people think the Packers are just going to blow them out. I don't see that. I see it being a close game, but hopefully they can pull it out by 4. So that is the next pick. And then the last pick, this is not going to be an official pick because you're not able to get the points that we have on here. But earlier in the week, before Jayden Daniels was cleared to play, it was Washington getting 3, and that's what we got it at. Earlier in the week, Washington was getting 3 points, so we bet it at Washington +3. Now that Jayden Daniels is back, you want to know what a difference he makes? Now it's Washington -1. That's a 4-point swing. You almost never see that. So it went from the odds makers thinking that Chicago is clearly better without Daniels to it's a toss-up, maybe Washington a little bit better being the home team. This is going to be a lot of fun to watch. I'm excited about this game. These 2 young rookies coming in and playing against each other. This could be a rivalry that we will see for a long time. I hope that it's a good game. I hope it's a clean game, and I hope nobody gets hurt. Caleb Williams started out a little rusty. He's been playing better and better, and, man, he's got some natural talent on him. Jayden Daniels been playing out of his stinking mind. Just some of the plays that this kid has made, it's been so much fun to watch and see him come in like this. So we officially took it at Washington +3. It's right now Washington -1. That's not an official pick. So technically we have 4 picks, but I did want to explain that. If you want to buy an alternate line and go with Washington +3, I mean, your odds aren't going to be as good, but if you want to take the chance and do that, I wouldn't hold that against you. But that will do it for this week's episode. A quick recap: Buffalo -3, Indy +5, Philly +2.5, Green Bay -3.5 are the official system picks for this week, week 8. Thanks for tuning in. And remember, please don't bet anything more than you have. Have fun with it. And hopefully we will see you guys next week for week 9. We'll be officially at the midweek we'll be at the mid-season week of the year. And from there, it's off and running, and the system should get better and better after that. And hopefully we will know who the real players are in the NFL. And really, we're going to find out who's going to separate themselves from here on out. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We'll see you next week.
YSN thanks you for watching this presentation of Your Sports Network. For stories, stats, and more, go to ysnlive.com.